Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I hope you've had a fantastic week. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Today, we are painting the puzzle pieces for week number 3. So if you need week number 3's puzzle pieces, or week number 2, or week number 1, they're all down in the description box. You can grab those. Maybe you're just now joining in. You can catch up. And just to let you know, all of these videos are saved in a playlist so that you can just start at the beginning if you're just now seeing this and catch up to where we are today. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. Today is Friday, December the 10th. 10 days into December. Time is flying by. I want to thank my moderators. Thank you, Miss Dari, for keeping an eye on the chat. Thank you so much. Before we get started today, I just want to say a special little shout out to my daughter Bailey, who might be watching today. I found out she's been watching Fridays while she does her crafting, and currently she is making hot chocolate bombs. And so she turns me on Fridays. So I want to say hello, Miss Bailey. I already have my pieces traced for this week, so we're going to switch down to the cutting mat, and I figure we'll spend about an hour together. And you pretty much get the idea of how to trace the pieces and what we're doing with them, right? So we don't have to keep repeating that. And I just thought this would be a great opportunity to just chit-chat, catch up with everybody. I really feel like this is a community here on my channel, and this is our time to spend time with each other when we go live, right? So if you are participating in this quilt, how's it going? Are you having fun? Has it been a dedicated time in your week to just relax and chill out and to forget about everything else you have left to do for the week? I hope so. Wow, happy birthday, Dari. Tomorrow is your birthday. So I went to the Dollar Tree the other day, and they had these little containers. I'm trying them out today. This morning, I traced my pieces, and then I pre-mixed with the fabric medium some of the colors I'm using in today's pieces, right? I don't know how airtight these are. The lid feels a little loose. I mean, it snaps on, but I don't know how airtight this is. But I guess I will see, because tonight we're going to do a paint party Zoom on Creative Crew. And I'm just going to let, whatever paint I don't use today in today's video is just going to sit in these containers, and I'm going to try them out tonight and see if they're still, if they start drying out or whatever. Lisa said, what kind of paints are you using? It looks like a fun project. All right, Miss Lisa. Well, the majority of the paints that I'm using, they're all acrylics, right? But the majority of the ones I'm using are from Apple Barrel. There are some FolkArt acrylics here. And then I bought a big box of colors off of Amazon, and that's the name brand of those. And I do have 2 of these that I'm using, but they're all acrylics. But I've mixed in a fabric medium, right, to soften the paint, to make it softer on the fabric when it's dry and heat set, and to soften it up so that if you want to quilt over top of the painted areas, it'll be a lot easier to quilt through it and cause less thread breaking issues down the road. Let me show you the fabric medium that I'm using. I just emptied this jar. It was in the trash. This one came from Joann's, but they have them at most crafting stores, right? The DecoArt Americana fabric medium. That's what I've mixed in. And it does make a difference. You might not feel it while it's dry, but once you heat set it, you do feel a difference. It does feel smoother and softer. So I figured I'd paint this one piece with whatever colors that piece requires. And I'm just looking at, this is piece number 13. Y'all, I've had so much fun. I don't know if you can see it behind me. See that laying over there? That's the Seahorse art quilt that I'm doing. That has been so much fun. I have had so much fun. I have done so much quilting the last couple of days on that. It's been a lot of fun. So for piece number 13, it actually goes like that. And we'll start with the color C. Yes, I hope that if you're making this quilt, you have really enjoyed the process. Valeria, oh my goodness, Valeria, I'm so glad you're here. How are you doing? Wanda said, I am behind. So close in the color palette, I want to change H. Can I paint over it with another color or over the ones that I have H in them? What color is H? H is kind of dark, but if you go darker, I think you could paint over it, right? If you wanted to change that color and you've already used the color H, something darker like I, that would cover it. But if you want to go lighter, then I don't know how that would work. The paint is actually matte. But Charlie, I've seen somebody on Creative Crew is using a metallic paint, and that is pretty awesome. But the acrylics that I'm using, they all dry with a matte finish. Valeria, I haven't seen you in a while. Did you see the live where we gave away your fabric bundles? That was exciting. All right, color C, that's what I'm using. And I can start painting in these pieces. Yes, that was exciting, Valeria. Everybody was so thankful for the fabric you donated. And y'all, I'm still extending my paint way beyond this inner box into that seam allowance so that I have less touch-ups to do on this quilt. It is still really hard not to show you the one I already have done. I still have not put the binding on it yet, primarily because I've been working on the Seahorse one. Do y'all ever do quilts and then you're so excited to start your next quilt that you don't finish the binding on the one you just did and you just jump right into the next one? I still have the binding left to do, but maybe this weekend. The Seahorse one, I have been taking videos throughout that whole entire process. I still have a little bit left to do before that quilt's done, but I'm expecting to have a video about the Seahorse next week. I can tell you, I've pretty much worn this brush out between doing my first quilt of these pieces and doing the Seahorse. I've pretty much worn out this brush. Little parts of the bristles are breaking off, and I'm really sad because I really like this brush. I'm going to have to find another one that's about the same size. Oh, Valeria, I am so sorry you've been sick. I did not know that. I thought maybe you were like on a world travel or something. I thought maybe you were just traveling. Yes. What else can I share with you today? Oh. So today's the 10th. I was just on the phone with Bailey, and we were talking about how even though it's the 10th and we still have time before Christmas, like it's the 10th. We only have 15 days left. Sunday, I was watching the live stream. I have several people that I like to watch on YouTube, just like you, right? One of them is Deb with Our Time to Quilt. If you haven't checked out her channel, you might want to do that, especially if you like doing art quilts. She does lots of fun art quilts. But she was sharing Sunday a candle that she made. And if y'all are looking for gift ideas, y'all, she took a pillar candle. I'm so sad. My brush is breaking little bits of bristles all in my paint. She took a pillar candle and she transformed it, and it looks like a birch bark tree. It looks so realistic. It was awesome. Just a normal white pillar candle. So if you're looking for gift ideas, you might even have some candles around your house, right? You could transform that into a really pretty birch bark looking candle. They were gorgeous. I was so impressed. So Deb at Our Time to Quilt, you might want to go check out her live stream from Sunday. She didn't actually make the candle during the live stream, but she showed it, and then she showed and talked about the process. It seemed fairly easy, and you probably have all the stuff already that you could do that. Let's see, that's all the sea color. I am so bummed about my favorite paintbrush. I'm going to try it with one more color, but it kept putting little specks of bristles all in my paint. I don't think that this is the most expensive paintbrush in the world, but it's done a really good job. And I've probably just used it beyond its life expectancy. That's probably it. Let's see, so for this piece, that's all of color number C. I'll put the lid back on this little container. I like how they snap on, but then they feel loose. I'm kind of excited to see how well they stay. Here's color H. We're going to do the center part of this block. Yeah, Cheryl said it's time to turn your brush in. I know. That's so sad. So just bringing that color right into the seam allowance, which gives you kind of a messy looking finished little block at this point, right? But you're going to be thankful that you did that. You'll be thankful because all that messy part will be cleaned up when you sew these blocks together, and you won't see that. But you'll have a lot less touching up to do in the end. Ooh, Vicky said if your paint gets too thick, add a little water. That's a good idea, Vicky. I do like the idea of having them pre-mixed and ready to go, right? And if you've watched the last 2 weeks, I've wasted quite a bit of paint, right? So I like the idea of having them pre-mixed like this and then just putting the lid back on. I just don't know that these containers are going to be the answer to that. We'll see. That red really pops next to that light aqua, doesn't it? I know the lighting gets messed up a little bit. There you go. That's better. I tell you, I like this brush because I can get in those little points really nicely. I'm going to have to go on the hunt for a replacement. I'll tell you what, it has been a lot of fun to see your blocks over on the Creative Crew as you're painting them. A lot of people are using the same colors, same colorway as I am, right? But some people are changing up their colors. So it's a lot of fun to see the variations. If you don't do Facebook, right? I know a lot of people don't do Facebook, and you're not part of the Creative Crew, but you want to join the paint party Zoom this evening, send me a message on Etsy, and I will send you a link to join the paint party through Etsy. Okay, so that's a way you can join in the Zoom if you don't do Facebook. I would put a link right here in the description box, but then who knows who's going to join us, y'all. That's just too risky, I think. Who knows what kind of shenanigans we'd have to deal with. Yes, I love that red color next to that aqua. And I'm going to tell you, in the finished quilt, that aqua just glows. It's gorgeous. H is also in these spaces right here. Darlene, you want to find the playlist for the previous episodes. They're in the description box. So you'd have to leave the live chat, right? And open up the description box. And in there, you'll find the puzzle pieces for all 3 weeks up until this point. And you'll find the link for the playlist. Weeks 1 and 2, I made some labels yesterday, so I had the heat press turned on. I went ahead and heat set those pieces, so they're ready to be squared up. Let's see, this section over here is H. Somebody asked the other day in the comments section of one of the videos, how do you heat set these paints, right? I would give specific instructions. However, we're all using different fabric mediums. So my best recommendation, whatever fabric medium you're using, turn it over to the directions and it'll tell you mixing instructions, because each brand of fabric medium is different. Some are 1-to-1 mixing ratios. This one is 2 parts paint, 1 part medium, so they're all different. Same with the heat setting instructions. They are all different. Like this one says heat for 30 seconds with an iron. It doesn't even tell you, though, how hot your iron should be. I would say the cotton setting and no steam, right? But check the bottle of your fabric medium for specific instructions, because they might be different. And I don't want to give you wrong information. All right, so that is all of the H pieces. The playlist is already created, yes. Just trying to be extra careful with this sensitive paintbrush. Dari, thank you for sharing the playlist. Yep, you can click on that link. It's going to take you away from the live, but you can come back. And you can save your playlist. I have a bunch of playlists saved that are not ones I created or videos that I made. You can save the playlist so you can make it easy to find later on. Just drying out my little paintbrush there. All right, so that's all of the H color for now. Yeah, this specific one is 2 parts paint, 1 part painting medium, but they're all different. Like, I'll show you. This other one that I like to use, the GAC 900, this one is 1 part medium to 1 part paint. So they're all different, right? Make sure you check the instructions for whichever one you're using, because this one is different. The heat setting instructions are way different on this one too. Iron for 3 to 5 minutes medium heat, or heat press 1 to 2 minutes at 300 degrees. So that's way longer than what this is. So see how it's very important for whatever kind of medium you're using to check it, because it might be different. You can use fabric medium with Inktense pencils. Absolutely, Miss Beverly. Wow, Vicky's getting ready to have her 6th grandbaby. Wow, congratulations. Yeah, I'm going to take a sip of this coffee. It's been reheated since this morning. The same coffee. If you are using specific fabric paint, like the paint is fabric paint, you do not have to mix a medium with it. It's already got the medium made into the paint. Ah, the Liquitex says no heat setting necessary. See, yeah, it's really good to check all the instructions for whatever you're using, because every one of them are different. These 2 sections are F, so let's open that up. All right. Y'all, I've had probably one of the funnest weeks that I've had in a long, long time. Between painting my pieces from weeks 1 and 2, I've done that this week too, right? I've also been painting the Seahorse quilt this week. I've also been doing some wood burning, and I'm going to tell you, I am having so much fun with that wood burning tool. It's the same wood burning tool that I used to make those little lacy ornaments we did during a live one time, right? It's the same. I bought it on Amazon. It was like $15 or something like that. And it came with a whole bunch of tips. I was actually impressed with the different tips it came with. But in that live, I used the wood burning tool to melt away the extra tool, right? But yes, I've been doing some wood burning this week, and I have had so much fun. Apart from smelling like a campfire when I'm done, it was a lot of fun. It's made me think that going into next year, it might be a medium that I want to invest more into. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how much I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Can you use chalk paints in a fabric medium? That's a good question. I've never used them. I don't see why not. Here's the thing, y'all. In my spare time, I spend some good amount of time over on TikTok, y'all. I'm not even going to lie about it. I do. And I waste a lot on TikTok, a lot of time, but I've learned so much on TikTok. It's crazy. Do you know they have quilters on TikTok? But I did a search the other day for painting on fabric on the TikTok app. And so much stuff came up, y'all. I didn't have a lot of time at that moment to really dive into it. But did you know, and I'm curious to see if anyone's ever done this, you can use fabric softener as a fabric textile medium. I tried it out. I sure did. I've learned a lot of stuff. I learned to make the best lemon bars in my entire life on TikTok. So I was like, if the lemon bars were a success, I'm going to try this fabric softener, just normal downy fabric softener mixed in with the paint. I'm going to tell you, when it was dry, it was super smooth and super soft. So some of my Seahorse painting back there, some of those paints were mixed with fabric softener. But I was like, well, this is okay for an art quilt because this will never get washed, right? But it's super soft. I could quilt through that, and I have very easily because it's really soft. But I did do a test, and I painted a little swatch using the fabric medium that I'm using in this quilt and mixing paint with fabric softener, and I did a swatch that I threw in the wash. And I will say I was not impressed with the results in that. Like, I painted my colors, I let them dry, I heat set them both for the same amount of time, and I put that swatch in my laundry and I washed it with my clothes. Now, I would be wondering to do another test because I used the normal washing settings, right? So it was hot water, and I put fabric softener in with my clothes, so that part had fabric softener in the wash too. And the swatch with the DecoArt fabric medium did not fade at all. And the swatch that I did with fabric softener faded a lot. So I'm almost curious to do another test, because usually I say if you print on fabric or do any of that stuff, to wash in cold water without fabric softener in the wash. So I'm curious to redo that whole test and do cold water, no fabric softener, and see if there's any fading. I'm going to tell you, I really liked the results before I washed it. It was soft and it smelled really good. So yeah, I did like that. Sheila said, are you going to the Yorktown Christmas market tomorrow? I did not know they're having a Christmas market tomorrow. Let me write that down, Sheila. Ooh, that sounds kind of fun. I'll look up the times and see what we have going on tomorrow. Practically Creative said, I noticed that you painted all the way across the seam allowance this time. Yeah, I just dragged that paint way beyond that inner box just to be on the safe side. Just scrolling through to see if I've missed anything. I forget why I started talking about TikTok. Oh, because Dari asked about the chalk paints. I think I saw somewhere somebody was using chalk paint, and I don't even know if they put a fabric softener in it at all. So I would Google it. Maybe even search it here on YouTube and see what you find out. I've never used the chalk paints, but I am thinking I saw chalk paints being used on fabric on TikTok. Practically Creative said, I'm ready to lay mine out and try guessing the design. And I would say after next week, actually after you do the 5 pieces from this week, you can kind of lay them out, right? And see how they're starting to come together. I think this week's pieces look just like last week's and week number 1, right? But there's 1 week, and I think it's next week. I might have saved that piece for the 5th week. I can't remember. But there's one piece that's really different from all the other pieces that you've painted so far. And yeah, that one is a lot of fun. When you see it, you'll be like, whoa, that one's different than every one I've done so far. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I would start trying to paint in the black lines on this one, but I already know I'd probably put my fingers in it, and the F color is still pretty wet. So I'm just going to let that dry. I think I'm going to save my other pieces to paint this evening, so I have something fun to do this evening during that Zoom. Yeah, I think depending on how fast you paint, Practically Creative said I printed mine and had them painted within an hour or so. I think that's pretty much the average, unless you just really take your time and you're being really meticulous about it, then it might take longer, right? But I really wanted the pieces to be kind of simple on this one so that it didn't consume your whole week if you wanted to play along, right? It's not supposed to be something that you're like, oh, I've got to paint my pieces and it takes so long. It's just supposed to give you an hour, 2 hours maybe in the middle of your week, just to give you something that's like you time. Just some you time. Just to have fun. Cheryl, yes, you need to keep the more you stay off your feet, the faster you're going to heal, my friend. It's hard though, isn't it? Yes, I thought, let me pull over my Seahorse Quilty and show you what I've been doing on that. Kind of a spoiler before that video comes out, but it's not done yet, so. I've had so much fun. Look at there. It's not all going to fit in there because I don't want to disturb all that stuff. I've had so much fun quilting this, y'all. It's been heat set, right? So it's really soft. To be painted, it's really soft. And I have been super impressed with this fabric medium. I'm going to tell you that right now. The mystery puzzle quilt that we're doing, I've already done one. Heat set it. It feels very slick and soft. And this one, I really wouldn't be able to tell that it's been painted. So I'm really kind of pleased with this. I did paint this dark gray with the fabric softener. I painted the light gray with the fabric softener. It is soft. It really is. I dare say that it's softer than the fabric medium. I just don't know that you can wash it. I still have some experimenting to do. But look at all the fun quilting designs I've done. Terry, I think I am doing more of these because I'm going to tell you what, designing bigger quilts is a lot of fun and I thoroughly enjoy it. Making the bigger quilts to go along with the design is time consuming. And I found that if I do a big quilt and a big quilt and a big quilt, and then I have my commission quilts in there too, right? I just get kind of burnt out. And instead of it being fun, I don't like it to get to where I feel like it's not so much a burden, but it just seems like work. And I like my work to be something that I actually wake up excited for. So I have to find something to break up the big quilts, right? And I've really enjoyed this, and I see myself doing multiple of these. Here's the thing. I know lots of viewers on my channel, they really like doing the piecing and the patchwork and the traditional quilts and things like that. I love it too, but I do have to take a break from it. I think when you start feeling yourself burn out on something, it's good to walk away from it for a little while. Because I don't ever want to have to fake being excited about something. I just don't want to do that. It's just not genuine. And so taking a good little sabbatical from that will be good. Sheila, I used my Juki to quilt this. I sure did. And it's really good because this is 20 by 20, right? So it's a good size art quilt. You do have to fold it up a little bit sometimes, but it's not overly large to where you couldn't quilt this if you wanted to on your regular sewing machine like I did. Anitra, I love the painting. Well, I love painting anyway, right? So let me just fold this in half so you can see the other parts. So what I have left to do, this has all been quilted, but I drew these lines in with my friction pen so I could see, will I like that or should I just leave it alone? If I iron over top of it, those lines will go away. So I think I kind of like that swirly line, so I'm going to still quilt that. That has to be done. But other than that, I think I'm getting close to putting a binding on this. And then that video will be done. So one thing I learned, which is good information, especially when we're at week 3 in this quilt. We've got 2 more weeks and we'll be putting this quilt together. One thing I learned yesterday, did I start quilting this yesterday? I did. I did all that quilting yesterday. I thought it would be really cool to use some different color embroidery thread to quilt throughout the water, right? But so I started down here with some like light blue embroidery thread. But what I noticed is when the needle goes through the painted fabric, it leaves a little dot. You might not see it in the video, but it's there. And I don't love that. I do like the sparkles of the blue thread, but I don't like the little dots that it leaves. It's not very forgiving if you mess up because you've poked a hole through the dried paint, right? And then I switched to a darker teal for this section, and I still see little black dots. So I was like, okay, so I guess it's just black thread from here on out. So that's what I did. All the rest of the quilting was with black thread. And I'm okay with that. But keep that in mind if you're thinking in advance on how do you want to quilt the quilt we're currently working on. If you don't have a black quilting thread and you want to quilt within these sections, you might want to get some black quilting thread. So that's something to think about. But yes, it has been a lot of fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think my favorite part in the quilting are the little spirals, right? And then this, what is that, clamshells? Is that clamshell quilting? I don't know what that's called. It looks like a mermaid or something. When do you plan to share the pattern? When I release the video, I'll put the pattern out with that. It is going in the Etsy shop, y'all. I'm thinking $4.50 for the pattern. So this one won't be a free one, but the ones we do during the lives, those will be free. I totally agree, Celeste. Creating should be refreshing and not drain. I totally agree. And taking a break from the larger quilts for a little while is probably a good idea for me. I have some commissions coming up, and I want to approach my commissioned quilts excited. And if I am just constantly working on large quilts, then I find that hard to do. So that's where I am with that. That's so much fun. So you can quilt it with colored thread, but just know that when you poke the holes with your needle in your sewing machine, it appears like a little black dot where your needle punctures that fabric that's been painted. You could certainly use the colored threads, but just keep that in mind. Terry, I think a beginner could do that. Here's the thing. The painting on the fabric, we've been doing that, and it's a lot of fun. And you could certainly paint that part as a beginner. It's not super, super detailed, tiny. I mean, it's got some little pebbles at the bottom, right? And parts of the seahorse are small at the little tail. But once you've painted it, you can stop. You don't have to go back in and quilt it. I just did that because look at all the fun opportunity spaces to do some fun quilting, right? You don't have to do the free motion quilting. So I feel like that project, and even the one we're doing right now, you can adjust it for whatever level you're at, right? If you're doing this one, but you're like, I don't know about free motion quilting, then don't do it. Don't do the free motion quilting. Sew your quilt top together. You could stitch in the ditch with your regular pressing foot. On the quilt that I've already done, that's just like this one, I used my regular pressing foot and I stitched because it helped me get nice lines, right? I did a lot of the stitching with my regular pressing foot and doing straight lines. And I can't show you that yet, but or if you're more advanced in your quilting journey, you could put on the free motion foot and have a lot of fun in these areas. So it's really whatever level you're on. Yeah. But don't be afraid to push yourself to the next level. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, the quilted clamshell. Wasn't that pretty? Miss Sylvia. It's not in the Etsy shop yet, though. That's going to be sometime next week. If you're on Facebook, I've shared some time-lapse videos here and there. That's kind of fun. But yeah, I'm still working on the video, and I won't have that up until I put a binding on that. So it'll be sometime next week. And I still have to type out the instructions, right? I've already done the pattern and all that, but I still have to type up the instructions to make it. So that's going to take me a minute. Yeah. Is that dry? No, it's not. So this evening, if you came in, I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen. Because I said we'd hang out for about an hour. I don't want to dive into my other pieces until this evening. If you're just joining in, we are doing a paint party Zoom. The link will be on Creative Crew, right? Because this is a free project, so I don't mind sharing the links on Creative Crew for this. The last 2 Fridays, we've done the paint party Zoom. It's a lot of fun. We're there for about maybe 2 hours, maybe a little less, maybe a little more if it's, going really well. And if you don't do Facebook, but you want to join this, send me a message on Etsy and I will send you a link there. Wanda said, I have just been watching so far to see if it would be something I would enjoy. My question is it a fold and sew method connecting the parts, or are you not ready to say yet? Actually, Miss Wanda, what we're going to do is once you've heat set these pieces, right, you're going to put it together just like any patchwork quilt, right? So this outer box, once you've heat set it, it's dry and heat set, you're going to square these blocks up, right? This extra fabric is just to give you a place to hold on to while you're painting. And if your fabric frays like mine does a little bit, then you're not fraying the actual piece, right? But you're going to square this up to the outside box, which is about 4.5 by 4.5. And then you're going to piece it together just like you do patchwork. It's actually going to be a 25-piece block, right? It's 25 pieces. But you just put the pretty sides together and sew with a 1/4 inch seam. 5 pieces in a row, 5 rows. So very simple sewing to put it together, but it's going to be put together just like you're doing a 9 patch or a 16 patch, in this case, a 25 patch. Right? So we have our 1/4 inch seam allowance built into the piece, and we're just sewing with our normal 1/4 inch seam allowance. V Blue, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Linda, I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to love it. I've had mine sitting downstairs. It's not even squared and a binding's not on it. It's just been sitting downstairs next to my chair. And I think my mom has gotten used to it being down there. So that one will probably live somewhere she can see it because it is so pretty. When you're kind of looking at the pieces like this, you're like, these colors, I'm not sure about these colors. But once it's together, you're like, those colors pop. And you're going to be like, holy cow, I did not realize I could create a masterpiece. And you're going to be so proud. I think if I drink any more coffee today, it's got to be new, fresh coffee. That's pretty gross. So yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else that I've been trying to think about to tell y'all. I think that's everything. I think that's everything, y'all. I guess I should have painted a little bit more. Catherine said, I dearly love the one you did for your bathroom. That's the one I want to complete. That one is a lot of fun. Totally non-traditional way of putting together a quilt, right? But I feel like when we're doing art quilts, we can get away with so much more than what we can if we're going to do a quilt that will ever get washed, right? I feel like there's absolutely no rules when it comes to doing an art quilt. Which makes me think, it just popped in my head. Y'all ever see the little Swarovski, I can't say it right, Swarovski crystals that you can put on quilts? Those would look gorgeous on this quilt. I just popped in my head. Let me write that down because, oh my goodness, that would be gorgeous. And another thing I wanted to mention too, because we were talking about thread. Okay. Hold on a second before I forget, because that's how my brain works. Crystals for quilt. I might look into that. That is gorgeous. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I went to the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival every single year. Last year they didn't do it, but so on display you can see lots of quilts, right? And some of the quilts have the little crystals on them, and they just catch your eye and they catch the light. They're gorgeous. You just heat set them, think, right onto your quilt. Hazel, you see my little robin? See what Hazel made for me? Little pin cushion. Isn't that so cute? Yep, she lives on my desk right here now. I'm going to research the crystals and see if I can't get some in the next couple weeks. I don't know that I would use them, but they just popped in my head. And I'm going to tell you, that would be gorgeous. I don't know. These ideas pop in my head, and then I'll go and buy this stuff, and then I'm like, well, that doesn't look exactly like I thought it was going to. But then I save this stuff for another project, and then I'm glad I have it. I don't know that the crystals will work, but I think it would be pretty. I have to see what I can get. I like experimenting with stuff to find out if it works so that I can let you know before you spend your money, right? So let me show you this. I was on the Amazon the other day looking for fabric markers, different kinds, because I like to experiment with stuff and then tell you what I find, right? So I saw these Sharpie Rub-a-Dub laundry markers. These markers are actually made to write on tags. Like if you have kids and you label their clothing on their tags, that's what these Sharpies are made for. And I was like, well, they're made to be washed, right? So I bought 2. I'm going to tell you, I kind of really like them. Here's a regular Sharpie, right? I'm going to show you the tip on this one. So it's a little bit of a blunter tip, right? And we've used these. I demonstrated them on the fabric, right, for the black lines. So I ordered these, and look at this tip. It's more pointy. I kind of really like the more pointy tip. And I would tell you, it saturates the fabric faster. It really does. I think you have to still be quick with it with your lines, because it does, if you leave it on there too long, it grows. Like, I don't know if you see that. It grows, but if you do quick swipes, it doesn't grow. I would still use this after, like I'm painting my black lines, and then to clean up the lines, I'm coming in with the Sharpie or whatever fabric marker. This would be perfect. I'll tell you, I used this on my Seahorse to clean up some of the lines, and I really appreciated that finer tip, and the ink is very, very black and solid. So, yeah, if you're looking for a good fabric marker. I like these. Sharpie Rub-A-Dub laundry markers. I kind of really liked them. Terry said, is that your Daisy Day quilt on the wall? Yes. You want to know why that's up there? So that quilt is on a quilt rack that I have downstairs. It stays on that quilt rack all the time. But I wanted to display the Down Home Christmas quilt downstairs for Christmas, right? It's just been folded up. I still haven't even finished the binding on that yet, but it's on display downstairs on the quilt rack. So when I did that, I just pinned that up to the wall. That one's got a bunch of recycled blue jeans in it. Ooh, Sheila has a good idea. We should see if your group wants to meet at the next Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival. That would be awesome. I did meet with Debbie year before last. We had lunch upstairs at the buffet. So this was right before, it was in February, right? The weekend of my birthday. And it was right before they had just started talking about COVID, right? It was in the news, but not a lot. So it was before the mask, before the shutdowns, before the quarantine, all that. We had a great day just walking around through, looking at the quilts, looking at the goodies for sale, spending a little bit of money. And then we went upstairs and had the buffet for lunch, and it was good. It was a good day. That would be fun if we all met as a group, whoever could make it. Sheila, you were there? I did run into, so this was weird, y'all. I did run into people that knew who I was. But that was kind of exciting. So yeah, if you go to the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival and you see me walking around, come say hello. Oh, Jeannie said she's used these before, and if you wash it a lot, they do eventually fade. That's good to know, Jeannie, because I just got them. So for a project, if you're going to wash it and it's going to get washed a lot, it will fade. That's really good to know. I think quilts, you know, how often, if you were to do a quilt block that you wanted to write your name or sign it or put a little saying on it, unless it's a quilt for a kid that uses the quilt a lot and so it might get washed a lot, I wonder how often, like that quilt there has never been washed. It probably needs to be washed though. I mean, I imagine it's kind of dusty. But yeah, how often do you wash your quilts? I guess if you use it, it gets washed more. If it's just on display, that poor quilt probably does need to be washed. Carolyn, I must have missed your comment. I'm so glad you're here. You've been following for like 6 years. Can you believe it's been 6 years already? That's crazy. 6 years. Holy cow. Catherine says Sharpie makes a very dark fade resistant marker, but the tip is no different from regular Sharpies. That's good to know. I do kind of like this little pointier tip. I do like that. So, as always, I hope you keep us updated on your puzzle pieces. I hope that because the puzzle pieces start to look all the same, that this project doesn't get redundant for you. If it is starting to get redundant, please keep going. You're not going to be sorry. But yes, feel free to share your puzzle pieces with everybody on the creative crew if you're on Facebook. If not, you can send me pictures through Etsy. So I would love if you keep me updated on what you're doing. Sue says, I wash every quilt I make before I sell it or give it away, even commission quilts. Yes, I think that's really important, Sue, especially your commissions. Here's why I do that. Because people say, why do you wash your commission quilts? Well, first, I might have draped it on the floor several times. I might have used glue and glue basting seams and whatnot. And two, because when the customer comes to pick up their quilt, I want it to look the way it's going to look forever. A good example is if you saw my Daisy Day quilt behind me up close, you see that it's been quilted and it's all very plump and flat and very pristine looking. You see the definition in the quilting for sure. But the rest of the fabric is very flat. But after you wash that the first time, that's when I think it becomes quilty, right? It's got the wavies, it's got the quilties, it softens up a lot. But it'll never, ever again look the way that it does right this minute, right? And so if I give my client a very flat, pristine looking quilt and they use it for a while like that, and then they throw it in the wash, and now it's all wrinkly, there's a good opportunity that they're going to think they ruined it when in actuality, they've just made it more quilty. Do you know what I'm saying? So when they first get it, I want it to look the way it's always going to look. Yes, and you check those seams, right? Yes. How many times have you put together a quilt and you washed it and you notice a seam pop? I've even done a quilt, no joke, where I glue basted my seams. And when you do that, it's really easy to lose track of which seams you sew. So I've been quilting a quilt and noticed that the seam had only been glue basted. It was not sewn. I've done that before. So yeah, washing the quilt, you double check those seams. Miss Sylvia, I'll tell you my favorite batting right this minute. And see, here's the thing. I'm partial to what my Quilting likes, and right now it's warm and natural. I had really liked the Toasty brand batting. The first roll of batting I got was perfect. It quilted lovely. The second roll I bought, I had issues with bearding on the back of quilts, and so I had to take that batting back. And the last two rolls I've purchased was warm and natural. And the Quilting loves it. It quilts lovely. I love the drape. So especially for commission quilts and for quilting for clients, right now I'm using warm and natural because it performs, I know what it's going to do, and it meets every expectation that I have. Not to say that I won't ever switch types of batting. I do have one from Angel that I'm waiting to try, but right now it's warm and natural. What is bearding? Okay, so a good example. Oh, I just took it downstairs. My down home Christmas quilt. It was right there. I just took it down this morning. My down home Christmas quilt, I used a very, very dark blue backing fabric. It wasn't a solid. It had black swirls with blue. If you stand back, it looks like a solid, but if you're up close to the quilt, you see the design in it, right? It was very dark blue. And I used a black thread to quilt that quilt. When I was quilting, the batting was poking through to the back. And on that dark backing fabric, it was very, very noticeable. So when you looked at the back of the quilt, it looked like white dots in the design of whatever I quilted. And that was the batting coming through to the back and showing up on the back. What's really weird is the first roll of Toasty brand, which is a blend, right? It's a polyester and cotton blend. The first roll that I got did not do that. The second roll I got did that. So I don't know what the difference was between the two rolls. But yeah, after that quilt, I took that whole roll. I only used 3 yards off of that roll. I took it back and moved over to Warm and Natural. I was glad that it happened on my personal quilt and not a quilt that I was quilting for a client. And not a commissioned quilt that I was making for somebody. That's what before we go, we were talking about quilting the painted fabric. And I noticed little black dots when using colored thread. And someone said, can you not use colored thread at all? I'm wondering, because I saw this picture. I love just browsing through Pinterest too, right? Very inspiring. You get lots of ideas. But I saw this super cute art quilt, right? It wasn't very big at all. It might have been 10 by 10. It was fairly small. And it was of this house and some other things going on. And they used a thicker, I think I showed Anitra, like a pearlized cotton thread. And they did some hand quilting. I don't even know if it was quilted or they just went through the top layer with the thread. I don't know that you couldn't do that with colored thread. And if it would leave a black dot. I think what happens when you pierce the painted fabric, it's going to leave that dot. But if you use a thicker thread, you might not notice it, right? Like the pearlized cotton. I don't know. That's something to think about too. Sheila, I use different needles. Believe me, when I noticed it was happening, I even cut the batting and flipped it, thinking I had it upside down. No. I went through every size needle, new needle, tension, different thread, changed thread, everything. No. Nope. The bearding with that batting, no. And then, so I loaded some test scraps, right? I had loaded some black fabric on the long arm and just some scraps to quilt. And it was the batting for sure. I did. Believe me, when I noticed it happening, I went through all the stops to try and stop that from happening. Besides, I should have just cut it off and replaced it, but I didn't. I just quilted the whole quilt with that batting in it. So on the back of my down home Christmas quilt, you see little white specks. But I learned my lesson. I just took the batting back. I have not had that issue ever since. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. I hope that you've had a chance to hang out with us today. We're not doing anything groundbreaking and new today. I just painted one of the puzzle pieces. I'll be working on my pieces this evening in the Zoom. I hope that if you have the evening free and you're able to join us, that you join us. You don't even have to be doing this quilt, right? If you think, well, there's Zooming and doing the painted puzzle pieces, I'm not making this quilt, so I can't join in. No, come on in anyway. We would love to see you. Most of us will be working on puzzle pieces, but we have people join in that are not even doing this quilt. So we would love to see you. Again, if you're not on Facebook and you want to join, send me a message on Etsy. There's a link. There's all the links, y'all. A link to my Etsy shop. You can send me a message and I'll send you the link shortly before we begin this evening. Right to Etsy. Oh, goodness. Practically Creative said, I'm working on a paint by number that's 16 by 20 on the side. I'm going to tell you, I've seen some. It's like, I don't know if it's been trending or maybe because I searched it and now it's all pops up. You know how that happens. But on TikTok, they're advertising where you can send in a photo and they will turn it into a paint by numbers for you. That's big like that, 16 by 20. And so when you paint it, they'll send you your custom colors and your custom photograph, right? That's been turned into a paint by numbers. That's pretty cool. Sue, if you want to just join and listen to the conversation, you can do that. Some people are doing stuff and they have their camera turned off, but they're just listening. So don't be nervous. Come on in and join us. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to, but you can listen. You can wave like, hey Lisa. That would be awesome. Miss Dari, thank you so much for moderating. Miss Sylvia, thank you so much for moderating before we go today. If I've missed anybody, I think that's all my moderators. If I've missed you, I'm so sorry. Hope y'all have a fantastic weekend. Next Friday, we're doing week number 4 puzzle pieces. They will be out Thursday, so you can pre-print those. Have fun, everybody. Can't wait to see your stuff. See you tonight.